the Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Today is a big day. It's our last show before the expansion draft. Now, we are yet as a crew to sort out exactly when we're going to do the one right afterwards, but it's going to be right afterwards. So I'm pretty sure we're going to record late on Wednesday night, but we will confirm that later. We're not going to do another one before the draft because it doesn't make any sense. Rosters are frozen. We know what teams are out there. It's time to do our kind of expansion draft. And then we'll go through, and obviously there was a lot of moves made this weekend as well. So we'll try to explain some of those moves as we kind of move through each team, and the trades will come up as they come up.
Well, and I have an idea for how people can watch the expansion draft, with pals. They could go to the Sportsnet YouTube channel and watch my reaction to the expansion draft. There's a fly in my room for some reason that I'm swatting away. My reaction to the expansion draft on the Sportsnet YouTube channel, but I won't be alone. First of all, I'll have your company watching, but also joining me on the stream, Jesse Blake.
Oh, I will be there.
Hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah, now that Jesse doesn't work at Bell anymore.
Yeah, I got the word today.
Adam.
I got the word today that I can join you for the whole stream, which will be so much fun.
That's cool.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm doing all my research on all the prospects. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about how little we miss Adam.
Over under on how many times we bring up Adam.
Are you allowed to?
45.
Yeah.
45. Well, Adam, unless they shut the stream off,
right?
Okay.
I'm just going to do it.
Hey, you guys, you can't talk about your Fred.
Okay, well, it's a Sportsnet thing. I thought that I was banished there. So
I'm gonna yell James Duthie over and over and over.
Bell product.
Fiber internet is amazing.
Yeah, boy, I love HBO.
There was a little CJ tweet just before the show. Just a quick thing before we get to our team.
Whatever, who cares?
He's poo bum.
What is it?
Chris Johnston, the NHL has announced an impressive list of Seattle celebrities that will help the Kraken announce their expansion draft picks on Wednesday night. Now, you read that and you probably think, NHL, list of celebrities, this is going to suck. It actually doesn't. It's quite good.
Kid Rock.
Sue Bird.
Oh.
No, not Kid Rock.
Okay.
Sue Bird, Marshawn Lynch, Lenny Wilkins, Jordan Morris, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Bobby Wagner, and Kyle Lewis. I know most of those names.
So they couldn't get Kevin Durant to come back to Seattle?
Shame.
No. Well, I mean, only if the Kraken can commit to being a winning team. Otherwise, he's just not interested.
Right.
He just doesn't want to go.
Man.
Just subtweet it the whole time. This expansion draft sucks.
Over under 3 years, Seattle gets a basketball team back and calls it the Sonics.
It's very soon. Yeah.
Soon, right?
They probably won't hit the court in the next 3 years, but there'll be an announcement within 3 years, and maybe they have the team in 5 to 7.
Was it? I don't know basketball's business side enough. Nothing against Oklahoma City, but isn't Seattle much bigger and a much more metropolitan area? It seems odd that the Sonics moved at all.
They wouldn't invest in a new arena, and the owner was like, "Hey, I'm not doing it unless I get public money." And the city did the correct thing and didn't pay for his stadium, so they lost the team. Wow. And then the NBA kind of owed Oklahoma City the favor because I believe that's where New Orleans, they played during Hurricane Katrina after all the disaster. And they were so impressed by Oklahoma City and their ability to hold an NBA franchise that they gave them the franchise when Seattle was moving.
It's a shame that they couldn't just expand. That's silly. But anyway, hey, well, there you go. Now, gentlemen, do we have our expansion lists ready?
I'm so excited.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Okay. Steve finished his about 5 minutes before the show.
An hour ago.
And he said to us this morning, "Hey, guys, this is taking a long time. I hope you have your list done." And we were like, yeah. Same with Vegas, man.
I've been busy. I've been very busy. I've been a busy boy.
How was your workout this morning?
I didn't have a workout this morning.
Was it Cairo?
Oh, it was chiropractor. Yeah. Oh my God. It was like a person jumping on a giant sheet of bubble wrap. Because
it's been a while.
It's been a while, but it was great.
Now, Was this Cairo in person?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes people don't realize that from out, like you could get Cairo during the pandemic, but there was like certain restrictions on it and that sort of thing. I wasn't sure when the last time you went.
Virtual Cairo?
I know. I was going to
Did they
ask.
explain like how to jump onto a trash can?
Because you were. The reason I ask is this same guy is the guy that you work out with in your garage, right?
No, it's not. No.
Oh, okay. All
my
right.
chiropractor recommended the trainer that I work out with, who has done wonders for my back. So how dare you? How dare you? I used to work out in his garage. Yeah, why not?
Listen.
He's got a bunch of stuff there.
All right. Let's get into it. So, which celebrity are we going to get to introduce your Anaheim pick, guys? What's the list there?
Oh God, Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg. Okay,
who is also aligned with like several other NHL teams.
Okay.
But we're going to say Snoop Dogg.
Okay, so Snoop Dogg announces, with this pick with Anaheim. I'm going to start with you, Jesse. Who do you pick?
So easy here. This is a toss up. You take Hayden Fleury. The Ducks just acquired him. They traded a 6th-round pick and a prospect to get him. And when the team is like, hey, here is your man for the expansion draft, you say, thank you, other team. I will accept him and put him on the Kraken. You take Hayden Fleury. Sorry.
Now, what's interesting about that, what you just said, they acquired him for a pick and a prospect, and they're handing him to the other team. We're not looking at the Ducks and calling them idiots. But that is essentially what they're doing with Hayden Fleury. And it's exactly what Dubas is about to do with Jared McCann, potentially.
We think, maybe.
Potentially. We'll obviously get to that later.
Let's not start with the
anyway.
No, but it's a comparable. It's an easy comparable.
Now,
I thought it was an easy comparable.
Now, Steve,
it is. We're just giving you.
Who's your Anaheim
pick? I spent a lot of time considering Jacob Larson, who is in a similar situation to Hayden Fleury. He makes a little less. He's a lefty. He's a year younger, but I picked Hayden Fleury anyway.
Hayden Fleury. I had a look at Hayden Fleury's underlying numbers, and I wasn't blown away.
No.
Was not obsessed with that. So in order not to get buffaloed, because here's the thing. When you have an expansion team, one of two things can happen. You can, 1 out of 100,000 times, become the Vegas Golden Knights, or you can have the run that most expansion teams have in most leagues, which is you're terrible for a while.
You're garbage.
And what you need are high-end draft picks and bodies who can play hockey, who are warm and can breathe and aren't intimidated by the game, which is why, with my pick, I go with Adam Henrique. I know that contract sucks, but he had a bit of a... Hey.
Also, Adam's tanking.
What the hell, Adam?
Oh, you picked him because he's an Adam.
Let me tell you, first off, he's an Atom, number one. So that's points in his favor.
So
here's what
2024?
It's not that bad. Here's the thing. Have you looked at, have you guys bothered to look at any of his stats this year?
Yeah, no, but there, okay.
I'm not going to lie.
Do your explanation. And I'm just going to say that this is the pick one. Mm-hmm. There are 29 other teams where you can get warm bodies who have better deals than Adam Henrique.
Well,
that pick sucks.
First off, I like the fact that he's 55% in the faceoff dot. I like the fact that he had 12 goals in 45 games this year. I like the fact that this guy is one of those people that you can slot in first line to third. It doesn't really matter because I'm personally not expecting Seattle to be a playoff team this year. So if we're drafting from that perspective, it's like, you know what? Let's have this guy around who's been there. Yes, he makes a little too much money, but I got a bunch of other places later on where I can save some cash. I like what he brings in terms of leadership. He's 6 feet tall. I can throw him out in pressure situations, and I'm not worried. So my pick, Adam Henrique. I knew it was going to be an unpopular one, but that's what I'm going with.
He's relatively money in the bank for roughly a 20-goal pace.
And honestly, you need centers who can do that right off the top. Right?
There's so many centers available.
Yeah, there's worse picks out there, but I don't like that one out.
Okay, good.
No.
That's fine. All right,
okay, you're going to hate some of mine.
So, okay, so Steven, you got Hayden Fleury.
Yes.
Going on to Arizona, gentlemen.
Let's do it.
Jesse.
Yeah.
Am I going first each time? Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to. We can
just
whatever.
Just so I know I'm prepared.
Here, do you want me to go first? I can go.
No, I just had to pull it up. I took Christian Fisher.
Why did you go Christian Fisher?
So I'm not going to take any UFAs. It was between 3 guys here. It was Bunting, Pitlick, or Fisher. I'm not taking any UFAs. So a couple. Who was out? Who was the UFA?
Pitlick.
Was it Pitlick? No, Pillock's a
Bunting's
UFA.
UFA too.
He's UFA?
Bunting.
Oh, okay.
So that's who I crossed off. And then so it's take out the UFA. This is Bunting. So I have Fisher and I have Pitlick, and I'm going to take the younger guy. I'm going to take the 24-year-old who only makes $1 million. He's an RFA, so at the end of next year, so you have control there. And then Pitlick, he's 29, so he is what he is. I'm going to take the guy with potential. So that's where I am.
Steven?
I had a good look at Christian Fisher too. You should have seen the panic in my eyes when you said Bunting, because I thought he was an RFA and I missed him, but no, UFA, I'm not going to take him. I took very few of those. We'll talk about that later. I took Ilya Lubushkin, who only makes $1 million, 27, right-handed D. Wow, did the Coyotes do such a good job of creating a list of players no one would want? Like,
man, isn't that their just roster? Isn't that their
dude? Like
they don't have to protect anyone. I don't think
the list. There were several. It's funny. So people are starting to do their mock drafts like we are, and I was just sifting through some of the answers, and they're like, man, a few teams did really well at just hiding everybody and giving Seattle nothing but trash.
They're better at it this year.
Man, the Coyotes, they did well, but they did well because the team's not very good. So I took Lubushkin because he's a right-handed D, and those are valuable just by waking up in the morning. So that's why I got him.
My pick is Michael Bunting. The reason I picked Michael Bunting is he is a UFA. Now, I like his possession numbers. I want to see what he can do with more responsibility. However, he costs you close to nothing or nothing at all. And I think that was something that Seattle targeted. There are a lot of forwards available who can do probably what this guy can do. But what I like about him is that he, again, has been there. There's a little bit of been there. Little bit of played for a franchise that's not doing so well.
It needs the opportunity.
Wants more of an opportunity. Probably going to re-sign with you for very little money. I like him on the left side. Why the heck not? You're not really going to lose much with Michael Bunting as your pick. So we move on to round 3. Jesse Blake.
So here I went with Connor Clifton. I think this was an easy pick because you're not – the one thing I avoided here is you don't help the other team at all. In every situation, you're just going to try and get the best guy without helping the other team. And the helping the other team guy pick right now for Boston is Nick Ritchie. Don't fall into their hand. Don't take Nick Ritchie. Go after the young defenseman who can play in your top 6. He's proven on the Bruins he's a top 6 defenseman. So you go with Connor Clifton. 3 years. You have him there under contract. Very cheap, too. $1 million.
So I took a guy who's under contract for less time than Connor Clifton, but when Clifton is up, he'll be a UFA. My guy will be an RFA. So I'm going with Jeremy Lauzon, 24-year-old defenseman, can play the right or the left side, only makes $850,000 this year. So that sort of goes with Seattle's mantra of saving cap space. You'll notice this as a theme of mine. Jesse was talking about they should hoard goalies. I'm going Vegas style, and I'm hoarding defensemen. So that's why I'm going with him.
And I am going I'm going Adam Wild style, and I am going full centers. Nick Ritchie, baby. I want centers who are big, who can play some fucking hockey.
He's a winger.
Huh?
Yeah, he's a left winger.
He plays center too. Oh, I got him. Okay, fine. I had him listed as a center because the site I was looking at had him listed as a center. Whatever. Nick Ritchie.
That is a confusing thing because
right?
websites are all over the place on a bunch of guys.
Okay. Well, listen.
So whenever Cap Friendly lists someone as 2 things, I'm like, okay, they're actually 2 things.
Okay.
Because they almost never do.
So let me look this up again then.
That's hilarious.
Here's what I like about him. Okay. He does need a new contract, but it's probably not going to cost you that much. And what I like about Nick Ritchie is, again, player who can play, who is good for about a point every 2 games. And what you're going to need is consistent scoring throughout the lineup on this team, I think. And you got to give the fans something to watch for. And if you do have young players coming in, because obviously they're going to have a high draft pick, we don't know how high. I think it looks to me like, well, fill it out with some guys that aren't going to cost you too much. He's coming off a $1.2 million contract. What does he make? 2.5, 3 on his extension? Not too bad. I like what Nick Ritchie brings. I understand the reasoning for going for younger defensemen. But I felt like in this draft that there were an abundance of defensemen available. And it's just a matter of which ones you pick. So this one I didn't, but I got defensemen later on. So let's move on to the next round with Buffalo. Jesse, who did you pick?
I went with Zegmis Gergensons.
Zemgus
Gergensons, one of the only few players in the NHL with a song after them.
It was either Gergensen or Colin Miller in my book. But like I said, like Adam, you said, the expansion draft was loaded with defensemen. So I felt here, like I went to Boston and I got a young defenseman that I needed. I already started with Hayden Fleury off the top. This time I'm going to take the forward out of the one of two players that seem available from Buffalo.
Steven.
Welcome to Steve's Defenseman Emporium. William Borgen, because he's 24, right-handed D. Again, they are valuable just by getting up in the morning. He's a pending RFA, and I'm going to have a bunch of those at the end, and we'll have to talk about that at the end. Only made $864,000, and I'm not going to lie. The main reason I took him is Dwayne, the Buffalo Sabres fan, wants to lose him the least, it sounds like. So I'm going with him. You got to defer to expertise, right? You got to defer to people who know the Sabres, and he knows the Sabres, so I'm taking Borgen. Sorry,
I'm going to echo Jesse Blake and take Zemgus Gergensons, the Zemigod. Very excited about him, because I think here's the deal. Again, now, I guess Nick Ritchie's not a full-time center, but Zemgus Gergensons is. And what I like about him is he puts up pretty good numbers on just a shit sandwich he's been handed in Buffalo. Yeah. And if he stinks, he's up at the end of the season. You lose him, no big deal.
Former All-Star.
A former All-Star. There you go. Right. Because
Latvia
somebody's got
the ballot box one year.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I think, with, again, my strategy here is it's goalies, number two, but number one, you have to have centermen, and you have to have a lot of centermen because many centermen can play wing as well. And it's hard to find them in the NHL. They're valuable pieces. Let's get into the next round with Calgary. I have a feeling that everybody's going to pick the same player, but I could be wrong. Jesse Blake?
Might be unanimous.
Yeah, I went with Giordano. I think that's the pick here. You take the guy who won the Norris 2 years ago, who's on an expiring deal. I think that's so key for this. You get your top defenseman here, and if he's old and it doesn't work out, it's only one season. And then he's gone. And so I think it's an easy pick here.
Yeah, Steve Dangle.
Mark Giordano, I think he'll be reinvigorated by a new start here. Calgary's going nowhere in a hurry. You can flip him at the deadline if you're ass. You can re-sign him if you're good. I mean, Mark Giordano. There's no reason to take anybody. I took a peek at Oliver Shillington.
Not great.
No one up front really interested me. No one in net. Yeah, Giordano. That's the easy answer. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. I'm saying Giordano as well. Can play, can lead. Kind of gives the team a bit of a name in the market. And there's a few other players that you can sort of you got to look at if you're Ron Francis, you got to look at the marketing department and go, okay, who are we going to put on a poster? Whose jersey are we going to sell? Giordano's an easy one. And if you need one, he could be the team's first captain. So it's not the worst thing in the world, right? Moving on. Carolina. This one's an interesting one. Now they did move. Did they not move Hayden Fleury? And who did they move? Did they not move Hayden Fleury
in a trade? Well, yeah, they did. Yeah. He's on the Ducks now.
To not lose him for assets, but there are other players on Carolina that people are very, very interested in. Jesse, if you were Ron Francis, who would you be picking?
So one thing that I went with my strategy was I'm not taking UFAs. I think it's a waste of a pick to pick a UFA and then you end up not signing him. And it's like, okay, we could have had an NHL caliber player, or we could have had the mystery box, which could also be a boat. It's like, okay, I'm gonna take the NHL player instead of maybe I get to sign an NHL player. So here I avoided Dougie Hamilton. I went with Nino Niederreiter, the left winger. It's 1 year contract, just like Giordano. It's only 5.2. And at the end of the year, if you don't feel like it's worth it, it expires. If he maxes out his potential, then you re-sign him to a great deal. I think that's a top 6 left wing you could plug right in.
Steven.
I couldn't believe how many people I saw take Jake Gardner. Guys, no.
Have you seen him play?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. And in net, Reimer's available, Mrazek's available. Oh, they're both UFAs. I took a long look at Morgan Geekie, who just has a wonderful name. He's 22. He's a center. There's so few players under 23 available in this expansion draft. So if you took him no blame there. But a tale as old as time is losing Nino Niederreiter for nothing. And him going on to be a good player for his new team. It's a tale as old as time. So I don't love the 5.25 if I'm a team that wants cap space, but he's a great player and you can flip him if you need to.
So this is where it's interesting because you guys both took Hayden Fleury off the top and you both take Nino Niederreiter here. I am going to flip around on you and I'm going to take the defenseman. Jake Bean is my pick. This is a guy that can play hockey. And he's young. He's 24. And I think he's one of those guys that with Nate Schmidt, when he was selected from the Capitals, you just get the sense that he's a low risk, but potentially high reward defenseman. And I know that Carolina's not too thrilled that he has to be exposed. And they actually tried to move some pieces around. I took a long look at Nino Niederreiter because he's going to provide scoring. But there are other players in the draft I feel can do that. Drafted a few of them already. Jake Bean, for me, that's a guy I can see on the defense for the Seattle Kraken for the next 3 to 5 years at least, and probably at a low cost. Now, moving on to Chicago. This one's going to be interesting because they're another one of those teams you're like, I don't know. There are
Jesse,
good couple picks.
Jesse, you shouldn't go first. I shouldn't go first. Adam, go ahead.
Calvin DeHaan, baby.
I knew it.
Do I love this player? Yes. Is it too much? Yes. Is his contract too expensive? Absolutely, but expires after this season. Good defensively. He's kind of a hole outside of his own zone, but he is still good defensively, which you kind of need on a team that's kind of just come together. If you stink, so what? You trade him for depth at the trade deadline. But I like Calvin DeHaan. I like his experience, and I like what he does in his own zone, which is great.
We did not plan that beforehand. I was just I was just like, I know it. I know it to be true.
Had to be.
I'll go second, then you'll get back-to-back picks there, Jesse. How's that?
Okay, deal.
I also got Calvin DeHaan. Yes, but I got him. There were a few players I got with the for the express purpose. Is that how you say it? Mm-hmm. Of flipping them. DeHaan, he'll never play a game for the Kraken. I'm going to get him. I'm going to flip him.
Yeah, see, that's what I looked at him too. Is like it's either, and if he does play for the Kraken, he's traded at the deadline. If you're not going to the playoffs, right?
It's nothing against him. It's just
he's a good player. Jesse,
you guys are looking at this all wrong.
All right.
The correct pick here is Nikita Zadorov, because if you take Zadorov, the Brandon Saad trade becomes Brandon Saad to Colorado for nothing. If you remember, the goal here is to screw over the Chicago Blackhawks.
Right.
If you remember, they traded Brandon Saad twice. And in the second trade, they traded him to Colorado for Zadorov. So you take Zadorov, that trade becomes Brandon Saad was just given away, and the Chicago Blackhawks look like idiots. That's my pick. I'm taking the younger defenseman. You guys pick the 30-year-old. I'm taking the 26-year-old who's also being paid less, 3.2. You need to re-sign him, but that number is not going to be high because he didn't have a great season this year.
To be fair, Jesse, we're not sure Zadorov can play at all. He's just there. Like he's played on teams, but we're not totally sure he's a good player.
He was okay. Like big hits, though.
He throws a lot of hits. So did Dion Phaneuf. Are we sure that he could play?
Well, okay, that's mean.
I don't know if that's the correct.
That's quite mean. No, but Jesse's thinking here. There's logic to that. Teams do not like looking like idiots, and they will if they lose him for nothing.
So basically, screw Chicago, Jesse.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now moving on to Colorado, Jesse. Your double pick. What do we got?
Here, this was the second most fun. It's funny these were back to back because I think here you go with Landeskog. This is the one. I think is the one UFA I took in the entire draft because I'm totally against UFAs as I explained. But I think Landeskog, you say, hey, what do you want? How much money? How many years? You get a captain. You take the left wing. You take the captain. You take Landeskog. Guaranteed star on your team.
Steven.
I love that thinking, but there's something. It's been too quiet. And I feel like if that were going to happen, we may know. We also may not because, people want to put on a friggin' show on Wednesday and it's only Monday. I'm going with Joonas Donskoi. All he does, wherever he goes, is just be a really solid player, dependable production. 29, he's not that old. He's got 2 years left, 3.9. If at any point you want to get rid of him, you can, or he can just be a really good player for you. Donskoi.
I will echo that. Donskoy, I love. And, this is a guy that had 31 points in 50 games, only playing 14 minutes a night. That was his average ice time. So if on Colorado, he is going to be down in the lineup. But with the Kraken, there's a good chance if you keep him and you don't flip him to somebody else who really wants him, that could go to 16, 17 minutes a night. And I'd be curious to see what he can do with that. There are some players that can handle it. Like I remember, when the Leafs were overplaying Jake Gardiner and he would start to make mistakes. Once they got that ice time back down again, he became a better player at that. And I'd love to see if Donskoy can do it in a regular second line role above that 14-minute mark. So that's who I'm going with. Now, that brings us to another team, and I got to give Jarmo Kekalainen huge credit here. This was not easy. Columbus, who do you pick?
There's no one to pick.
It's either good talent, but way too high on the salary, or nothing. So, Jesse.
My team, thankfully, it came in just under the cap, so I had room to do this. But I figured, okay, young center, why not? 1 year, Max Domi. I take him, you put him on the team, you see what happens. It's 5.3, but whatever. You take the young center. There isn't that many high quality centers available, and I think I take every single one every time they come up, because that's the strategy you got to go with. You got to collect centers, you got to collect right-handed D, and you got to collect goalies. So
former 72-point man.
There you go.
Right?
Max Domi, Seattle Kraken.
Steve Dangle.
I took a long look at Max Domi, and I mean, that's a safe pick because he had a horrible season in Columbus. Surely he has a bounce back with Seattle, and you flip him for the sun and the moon. But, and you're not going to hear me say this very often, sources say Seattle with Max Domi, I was told no chance.
Oh, well, you should have told me that beforehand. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, but I wanted to be more right.
Wow.
So I did not tell you that. Hoarding information and hoarding wingers as well, because RFA at the end of next season making under $900,000. I'm going to take Kevin Stenlund. He's a former second-round pick from 2015 and back-to-back 10.32 game seasons, which I know isn't going to blow you away. But if I'm looking at what Vegas did, I'm looking at, especially with a player who they got from Columbus, they're going to put him in a position to succeed, and hopefully he'll flourish.
Steve, I'm also going to pick Kevin Stenlund. What I liked about him is he's got positive possession numbers and honestly, positive goal effects when he's on the ice. I think he's just a guy that needs some ice time. Give him a chance. And you look at what happened with Vegas. William Karlsson, right? I mean, listen, to expect that someone's going to pop out of this draft out of nowhere and score 40 goals like William Karlsson. I mean, I don't even think William Karlsson could score 40 goals anymore. But that's a guy to me that give him some damn ice time, see what he can do. You've got nothing to lose at $874,000 a year. And moving on, Dallas. Now, this one was tough because goalie available, good players available, and some young players available. Jesse, who did you go with?
I took the young center that Dallas Stars fans seem to be most high on, Adam Mischarin, the RFA center, 23 years old, 775 on the cap. He played for in the AHL this past season, but he's a former 100-point player for the Rangers way back in the day. I'm going to take a chance on the prospect here.
Okay. Steve Dangle.
Yeah, some people were seduced by the idea of a veteran Ben Bishop. I wasn't. I also went with Adam Mischarin. Again, left winger, led the Texas Stars in goals last year. I believe the only player I selected with 0 NHL games played.
Me too, yeah.
None, but he was almost a point a game in the NHL.
I have him here as a center. Do you have him as center or left wing? You said left.
Hockey DB. Sorry. See, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Cap Friendly has him as a center. Hockey DB has him as a left wing.
Left wing. Okay.
I don't actually. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know this player because he's never played in the NHL. So I don't know the official answer. Like I said, Cap Friendly tends to be right the most often, the highest percentage of right. So I'm gonna say he's a center. Doesn't matter. He's obviously a talented young forward. So I want him.
I'm going to go with an approach that probably is going to raise some eyebrows, but I like this pick, and I like it a lot. Blake Como. I like a defensively responsible forward on a young team, And I think the Seattle Kraken are going to be a young team. He's a guy you want to have around younger players. From all, the word around the league is he's a great guy. His contract's up at the end of next season. So what's $2 million? Who cares? You can trade him at the deadline if you suck. And if you don't, he's been to the Stanley Cup final and he's a good leader. Like, this is, I don't know. To me, it's one of those guys that you kind of plug him in on the third or fourth line and say, okay, Blake, just teach the team how to be responsible defensively. Lead by example. That's why I like Blake Como. Now, moving on, Detroit. A couple of interesting options here. You think that maybe Steve Yzerman would have liked a little more time to protect some of these assets, although it's not a whole lot. Jesse, who'd you go with?
The right-handed defenseman is the name of the game in this draft. I went with Troy Stecher. You take the young 27-year-old, $1.7 million right-handed D. You scoop him up. You put him into your lineup.
Steve Dangle.
How on God's green earth do the Red Wings have so many players worth taking? Like, seriously, they actually have a few pretty decent options, but just like Jesse, I landed on Troy Stecher, 1.7 mil. Come on, gimme.
I'm the same. Troy Stecher on this one. I think it was sort of a no-brainer. You can move him at the deadline. Good depth piece. And again, it's sort of warm bodies. But one notable mention, and I'm surprised none of us picked him, was Evgeny Svechnikov. I thought maybe about him, did a little research, but there are a lot of really good players at that position. So it felt maybe, whatever, right-handed defenseman, right? At the end of the day.
Dennis Cholowski is a first-round pick from 2016.
Mm-hmm. Not the worst. They do have a few options that are not that bad at all. All right, now the next one's going to be interesting because not only do we have a big following from this fan base who love us and hate us at the same time, but there's always fireworks happening when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers. There's always a story. They are probably one of the most interesting franchises in the last 10, 15 years. And to be quite honest, Ken Holland didn't leave a whole lot on the table. A whole lot.
No.
Depending upon how you look at it and what you value. Jesse Blake, who did you pick?
I take what I think as is a free player.
Ooh.
He had surgery in March, and then he talked about how his career may never resume. I'm taking Oscar Klefbom. I pick him in the draft. I throw him out on LTIR. That's a free guy. It doesn't count against the cap. It just sits there. If Klefbom can play again, then he's a number one defenseman on my team. Boom. Slot him in first pair every day. If he doesn't play again, it was free. It just sat on the cap, and then I get extra cap room on top of whatever I selected. So I'm taking Klefbom here just on the hopes that he can come back for next season.
Steve.
I, again, deferring to a fan.
Your microphone is disconnected, my friend.
Is it?
Now it's back.
Yeah.
Hey, now it's back. There we go.
Yeah.
It was off for just a minute.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I, again, deferred to a fan. I took Dwayne for the Buffalo Sabres. And for the Oilers, I picked Archeology. And I messaged him. And I said, who do you think Edmonton is going to lose? Because I know my answer. Who do you want to lose the least? And his answer was my pick. I'm happy to say Tyler Benson.
Oh.
Now you might be going, who the hell is Tyler Benson? Well, again, an other RFA. I have a lot of those. So that's going to be a factor when it comes to my cap hit at the very end. He's only got 7 NHL games under his belt with 1 assist. This guy produces. He has a couple years ago, he had 66 points in 68 AHL games, then 36 in 47. He had 13 points in 15 games in the Swiss League last year. Then he came over, went to the AHL, 36 points in 36 games again. I have no idea why this Edmonton native cannot get into the Edmonton Oilers lineup, a lineup that needs depth scoring. And if you're looking for like a guy who just cannot find an opportunity and you're looking to give him one, Tyler Benson.
There it is. Now, if you're like me and when you watch the Edmonton Oilers, you understand with your eyeballs that they're a terrible team when Nuge, McDavid, and Draisaitl are not on the ice. Then, to me, you don't pick a player. If Benson can't make the lineup, Klefbom's injured. It's a little different. I'm a little worried about the Klefbom injury. Benson can't make that lineup, then I'm going to go with a goalie who's going to give me some depth and ensure that I don't lose some other goalies that I'm interested in on the waiver wire.
No way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Stalock, baby.
Okay.
Not
if
Mikko
you said
Koskinen.
Koskinen, I was going to kick you in the chest.
I like Alex Stalock because you know he's going to be your third or fourth goaltender, and you know that probably at some point you're going to have to use that 1 or 2 games this year if you don't lose him on waivers, which I don't know.
I thought about Stalock too.
Yeah, he's not flashy, but you know what? He's not bad either. He's got some NHL experience. He's had some good runs. I'm going to go with a veteran presence in net, Alex Stalock. Now, moving on to Florida. Now, this is interesting because we kind of already know the answer. It's okay.
Yeah, there was no thinking to be done here. Jesse?
If we spend more than 8 seconds on this, it's ridiculous. It's Chris Driedger.
Driedger, and he's going to go to Seattle, and he's going to get a 3-year deal, $3.3 million per season. Not bad.
Where'd you hear that? I haven't heard that.
I think it was LeBron that put there. Somebody put that out there. 3 year, 3.3, something like that. I thought it was. Yeah. So maybe I read that wrong, but he's got apparently a 3-year deal waiting for him.
Little tidbit from Elliot Friedman's article that he uploaded today, like half of 31 Thoughts. Driedger has the same agent as Carey Price.
Ooh. Now, what could that mean, Steven?
Well, I don't know. It could be a lot of things. I don't know. I guess we'll talk about it.
Moving on to Los Angeles. An interesting team.
They did a great job.
So you had to do your homework with this one. So this is one of those teams where I'm interested to hear what you guys came up with, because I'm not sure there's a right or a wrong answer here. I mean, there are some wrong answers, but like the right answer could be a mixture of a whole bunch of things. So Jesse, who did you go with?
Well, yeah, after a bit of research, there's 3 guys I landed on. It was Austin Wagner, Carl Grundstrom, or Cale Clegg. And it was really a toss up between Cale and Carl. Mm-hmm. So Grundstrom or Clegg. And I hit Grundstrom because I was a little short on depth forwards, like prospects. So I went with Carl Grundstrom, just the 23-year-old, like former Leafs project. Hasn't really reached his potential in the NHL, but why not take a stab at that?
Why not?
Because this is your pick from the Kings is going to be a project. It's going to be a prospect who's got to be nurtured. So I went with Grundstrom.
Steve Dangle.
Yeah, man. Grundstrom, 11 points in 47 games last year. He was with Bjorklöven, who he talked about a little bit in Sweden. He's a good player. He seems like the sort of guy who the Kings are aggressively going from rebuilding to going for it. And it's very odd, and there may not be room for a guy like Grundstrom. Seattle, however, I think they might have room for him.
Now, if either of my 2 compadres had done any research on the advanced numbers for Carl Grundstrom, they'd know that he sucks ass. And that is why I couldn't pick him. I just could not bring myself to pick Carl.
He can't play on the line between Henrique and Como.
That's right. Nobody can. That's my all vets.
Oh my God, I almost soaked the computer just now. Oh my God.
I went with 23-year-old center Blake Lizotte. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's got good potential on the offensive side, not great defensively yet. Needs to work on faceoffs, although at the NHL level, he's still at about 51% in winning faceoffs, which makes him easier to slot in at center. Young center, why not? And hey, listen, if you can get him a little more ice time, I think he'll score a little bit more. Wasn't sure, but that was the guy that I felt like was the best one. Now, with Minnesota, I think there's got to be one obvious, but I could be wrong. We'll see if Jesse and Steve and I line up on this one. This is the one that everybody seems to be locking in. Jesse, who would you pick from Minnesota if you were the GM of the Seattle Kraken?
When I first started my draft on Cap Friendly, I went down on the side and I knew 4 picks I was going to take, and they were all 4 goalies. I knew I was going to have this lineup with 4 goalies, and it's going to be a great depth for the Kraken. And one of the goalies on that list was Kaapo Kähkönen. So it was an easy pick for me. You're going to take the young goalie who has potential to be an absolute star in this league. That's my pick for Minnesota.
Yep.
Steve Dangle.
Easy. Kähkönen. Easy. Was much better in 5 games last year than his 24 this one, but again, I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm picking Kähkönen as well. Didn't he still like 16-8? Like you still.
His record was very good.
Yeah, his
save percentage was whatever, but
902. Yeah, it's not great, but listen, you go with the potential. Now, speaking of goalies, that brings us to the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I'm going to read you some stuff before we get into our picks here. Okay?
I suppose we should take some time on this one, huh?
We should. So Elliot Friedman and Frank Zaravalli are 2 quotable things. I'm gonna quote them both on this one. Okay. Fried said this in his article about Carey Price. The facts are this: it is absolutely impossible for Seattle not to seriously consider this. there are extremely legitimate on and off ice reasons to select Price. He could be Seattle's closer and the Marc-Andre Fleury standard bearer for the franchise. He played junior hockey in the state. His wife, Angela, is from Washington State. Intriguingly, Price is represented, and Steve mentioned this, by Gary Johansson, who also represents Chris Driedger. It's been rumored for a while now that Seattle will take and sign him, which we're pretty much sure is going to happen. And there are other candidates, Kaapo Kähkönen, Vanacek, and then there are veterans on short term that you could take: Ben Bishop, Jonathan Quick.
Lots of free agents as well.
Lots of free agents. Now, Saravalli said this, Frank Saravalli of Daily Faceoff: "This story continues to evolve and percolate. I'm told the Seattle Kraken continue to investigate Price's injuries. Ownership has given Hockey Ops the full green light to select him if he sees fit." That is Francis. Health concerns and all. There is zero doubt that today they are considering it. Now, Angela Price tweeted out today that she's like, "Don't worry, guys. I've seen all your DMs. It's going to be okay, and it all makes sense." I don't know. And there are some teams that are pretty upset with Montreal right now because they're saying, all of the sudden, your two most valuable players are too injured to play next year. Weird. Steve?
Well, so I have two things to say there. One, the turnaround between the end of the Stanley Cup final and the expansion draft is so quick that Montreal's timing here, there is plausible deniability. Absolutely. Because diagnosis like these, you're talking probably second opinions. You're talking about a wide variety of things. Like this is not a decision with Shea Weber or with Carey Price. Neither decision with either player should be made quickly. So the decision with Weber, to me, isn't suspect at all for that reason. Carey Price, because it was like the day before, is a little bit more. So there's me giving Montreal the benefit of the doubt. Here's the other side of me. The Montreal Canadiens lost the Stanley Cup to a team that was $18 million over the cap, and now we will all feel their wrath. Marc Bergevin is walking the line big time. He had to get permission from the National Hockey League to even have Carey Price waive his no move. And the Shea Weber stuff, it continues to be fascinating. And wouldn't it be amazing? This is when we'll know he was lying the whole time, is if Seattle takes Price and he goes, actually, Weber's fine. You know what I mean? That's when we'll know. But the Tampa Bay Lightning got rather clever with the rules. They violated none of them. They just got cheeky. They got cheeky with the rules that existed. And Marc Bergevin said, all right, I got to step my game up.
It's almost like the Lightning were a little bit more there was a little more finesse to it. Bergevin,
subtle.
He's hitting this with a mallet. It's what's interesting here, guys. Before we get our picks in too, is that you've got a ton of other options, but very few teams have a chance ever at Carey Price. This is probably the first time since it was remember the Jaro Halak Carey Price debate in 2008, 2009 in the playoffs? A long time ago. Since anybody's had a shot at Carey Price. So, as the Seattle general manager, president, Hockey Ops, knowing that Ron Francis said that cap space is the most important and most valuable thing to an NHL team, it's only valuable with, if you use it. Jesse Blake, who do you pick for the Montreal Canadiens?
Cap space is the most valuable thing. That's why I'm taking the guy who won't count against the cap at all. Jonathan Drouin. You take him. He sits next to Oscar Klefbom on your LTIR, and you warm up to Drouin. You say, whenever you're ready to come back, we don't know why he stepped away from the game. Whatever happened there, it's a situation that'll resolve itself. And you get a free Jonathan Drouin whenever he's ready to come back, if he does. And if he doesn't, no money lost. It's all good. Yeah. You don't take it. The fun thing to do is take Carey Price, but you don't take Carey Price. There's so many other goalies here that are worthwhile and don't cost $10 million.
Now, LTIR only kicks in if you're right at the cap. Do you think Seattle will be a cap team?
Oh, my team is a cap team.
All right. The Jesse Blake Kraken are a cap team, baby. Steve Dangle.
I will not be seduced by Carey Price. I will not. Because people talk about having a marketable star, and he's going to get the Fleury treatment. That is revisionist history. yes, the Vegas Golden Knights marketed Marc-Andre Fleury, but we're talking about Vegas marketed their goalie based on Fleury's legacy prior to him joining Vegas. The recent history before he joined Vegas was he just lost his job to Matt Murray. Yeah, he won a couple cups, but he had just lost his job.
And what did Pittsburgh do to get him to Vegas?
They had to give up a second-round pick so that Vegas would not take Murray. Can you imagine going back in time and changing that decision? And nope, they just lose Murray, and we all curse the Penguins. You guys are a bunch of idiots. How could you lose him? You just won back-to-back cups with this kid. Can you imagine?
Pens would have been better off, it seems.
It seems. It sure does seem. Yeah, we all knew James Neal was going to kill it. And we all knew William Karlsson was going to score 40 goals. No, you got to be careful with the revisionist history, and a marketable star is enticing. Nothing is more marketable than winning. So,
you pick.
I pick because it sticks to the plan. He's young. He's a right-handed D. He's an RFA, but I do have that control. Cale Fleury.
Good pick.
So I do take Fleury.
Okay.
I get Fleury anyway. There's got to be one Fleury per expansion team, and I took two. Hayden and Cale.
I will be tempted by the forbidden fruit.
I love it.
It's Seattle Kraken property, baby. And here's why. Listen,
I love it.
He might not play, but Carey Price on this team gives it instant credibility. This guy just lost the Stanley Cup after dragging an 18th place team to the finals. Please don't tell me it went any other way. Carey Price shut the fucking door all the way up. Yes, he makes too much money. Nah, he probably won't play for 40 games, but I like a couple of things here. First off, if you're a cap team like Jesse's team is, LTIR space. Great leader in the dressing room. Good, calm guy to have around. Olympic champion. As I said, just lost the Stanley Cup final. Better mentor for young goalies like Kaapo Kähkönen. And, you worry about that contract and how it hurts you a little bit later on. This guy is a marketable name. Montreal, it seems, all of a sudden because of injuries, is a bit of a mess right now. I don't see Seattle actually doing this because NHL GMs are just no fun. But Carey Price with the Seattle Kraken, can you imagine the hoopla in Seattle? Can you imagine the outrage in Montreal? You'll have a bunch of people saying this is good for Montreal. They might be right. But Carey Price leaving Montreal like this is going to be one of the most unbelievable stories that never happens in the NHL. And I'm sad to say I don't think it's going to happen, but I certainly would.
I tell you what, though. You get Carey Price. I get excited. I buy season seats as a result. And then you tell me he's not going to play till January. I want my money back.
What?
I want my money. I got these tickets because of the marketable superstar that you just told me about, and now he's not going to play? Give me my money back.
That's your fault.
I hate you guys.
You're selling a plucky
That's
team.
my
By the
fault?
way, you don't get refunds on season seats, pal.
What?
Well, I tell you what. You know what's a
selling
bad way to start? By conning your fans.
That's not conning your fans.
No,
I think it's open about the
Steve.
fact that he's injured.
You got it. Okay. They have to announce it. They have to announce it when they get him. You need an answer.
No,
What if they don't know?
Then you don't pick them.
Oh, no, you pick him. You pick him. What matters now, Seattle's got like a 3 or 4 year grace period with their fans here. You don't need to win right now. I mean, it'd be good to win right now. But what you need to do is bring on some people that people can identify with. Carey Price is a guy that can do that. And while he's injured, guess what he can do? Go out to the schools, meet the kids, do the community thing. And then you get to see him in net. You do the interviews. You do all the things that you need to do to endear yourself to the community. All the things Carey Price has done so wonderfully in Montreal. There's a reason why people love this guy so much. Even if for the marketing department, you pay a $10 million goalie for the first half of the year to just do marketing and community development for you, that is what you do it for, my personal opinion.
That is a great perspective. And that is why I do a show with two people who have a different perspective than me.
Also, I like conning fans. Fuck you guys. Anyway. All right. Now, Steve, this is another one that we need to expand on before we get into it. The relationship between Ryan Ellis and Nashville seemed like it was never going to break up. This is a strong defenseman that has been with them forever. Stanley Cup finalist with them. quiet, likes the fact that he has his privacy in Nashville, and is traded to a team where he decidedly will not get his privacy. Traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. The pick that we are going with next, gentlemen, is Nashville. But can you explain, Steve, first, the Ryan Ellis trade?
Man, I thought they did pretty well, actually. So it's basically a three-way trade. They get, Philippe Myers and Nolan Patrick from the Flyers. Then they flip Patrick to the Vegas Golden Knights for Cody Glass. What's amazing is the Golden Knights pick three guys in the first round in their first draft in 2017 and have none of them right now. They don't have Suzuki. They don't have Glass. Who is the other?
Brannstrom.
Oh, my God.
He's in Ottawa. And DJ Smith apparently doesn't like him, so he won't play.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I mean, you get your first ever captain in Mark Stone out of it. So I doubt you regret that. But to get Myers, pretty good young D-man, and Glass, who's a pretty good young forward, out of that, if you're a rebuilding team, or at very least you're making peace with the fact that the Ryan Ellis era is over, that's a very good return. And Poyle is the kind of guy who can make those cold business decisions when they need to be made. And let's face it, Ryan Ellis isn't getting any younger. Still good. How long is he going to be good? And is he going to be worth that number? It's a cold trade, and I can't imagine it made Predators fans happy, but take it from this outsider, it's a good deal.
Jesse Blake, who is your pick from the Nashville Predators?
So from Nashville, I went with Ryan Johansson. And
really,
early on in my draft picks, I selected Clefbaum and I selected Drouin, which is conveniently around $9 million in LTIR space. So that extra room, along with the young prospects I went, allows Seattle to do some fun stuff, like re-sign Landeskog, like take an $8 million center who you can guarantee will be on your team. You know, there's long-term there. You'll plug in Ryan Johansson, and there you go. You have your first-line center. So that's what I went with, because I just had the extra cap room to do it. And I think Seattle has that. You need to take advantage of it in situations where you can grab a guy who's going to be center. You plug him in for free.
It's a good pick. It's an interesting pick. And I know Nashville wants to get away from that contract really badly. But it doesn't mean he doesn't have value, right? This is a player that does have value and probably could use a change of scenery. Steve Dangle.
If there was one team that should maybe consider a side deal with Seattle, it is perhaps Nashville. So you could take one of those deals. Unless you're Jesse, you just take them. I took a guy who Hockey DB calls a center, but Cap Friendly disagrees and calls a left wing. I really strongly considered Calle Järnkrok. He's just, you look at his numbers, he's so consistent. He's not special, but he is consistent in his production. But I look and I go, he's 29. Yes, I could flip him at the deadline, or I can hold on to a guy who's going to be $725 against the cap next year, and then he's an RFA. He's 24. He's only getting better and better, and he makes really fun highlights. I've been a big fan of this guy with hat picks. Yakov Trenin.
Interesting.
I'm going to take Yakov Trenin from the Nashville Predators, a second round pick from 2015, 6'2", 200 pounds. Yes, join my team.
Steve, and your team sounds like it'll be good in like 4 years.
Yeah. Hey, I'm NHL.
Wait till we get to the end.
Hey, Steve. Also, the lead up to that pick for a guy that nobody's ever heard of is like
Yakov Trenin.
You wrote a whole book before we got his name. It was crazy, man. I was like, well, who's this going to be? Like,
I'm good at this shit. He was over a point per game in the AHL 2 years ago. There you go.
Oh man. He's a regular TJ Brennan.
Wow.
Adam, that's not nice.
I'm sorry. I gotta come on. We gotta tease each other a little bit here.
Talk your shit.
I'm gonna go with Nick Cousins. I'm looking for warm bodies who can play hockey. 13 points on an offensively stunted Nashville Predators team. He only played 13 minutes a night. Not going to kill you defensively, which is important. And I think you're looking at a guy who can get you more points if he's playing a little bit more. And you're not afraid to have him up and down in the lineup. I think the key with Seattle's first-year franchise, as a lot of teams need, and I think Vegas was so good at, is flexibility. You need guys who have been there before, who can be flexible. You're going to be moving a lot of people around. There is no built-in chemistry. Everything's going to feel weird. A guy like Nick Cousins, been there, done that. And I mean, really, it's like one more year. Do you hate Nick Cousins at $1.5 million on your second or third line? I don't think so, if you got room for him.
Not if you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, and you can always deal him to the Canucks or something. They'll probably... They got to have somebody who plays. Now, moving on to New Jersey, baby. What are we going to pick from New Jersey? There's some interesting options here. A former Leaf, a former Pred / Canadian / a few other teams. Guys, Jesse Blake, you're the GM of the Seattle Kraken. Who you taking?
It was 3 guys here. It was Bastian, Merkley, and Will Butcher. So I thought it was so thin here with New Jersey because
Just to pause, you looked at 3 guys and none of them are Janssen.
Yeah. No, I don't want Janssen. I looked at New Jersey. I'm like, there's a bunch of guys. I'm not going to take on the team. The idea of having Subban is so much fun. You do that for the comedy, with Carey Price.
Marketing department.
Right. Just give him a job running the social media accounts, do that. But I think the right pick here is Will Butcher. He had a hot start as a rookie coming up with New Jersey, but then he fell off this last season. He was scratched a whole bunch, but he's a reclamation project. And I think it's something Seattle could work on. So I'm taking the left-handed D, probably your 8th D now on my team.
And why not? Steve Dangle.
I took a look at Merkley. Did not take a look at Janssen. Man, Dubas signed that deal, but I tell you what, he did a great job getting up from underneath it. That was tough for Devils fans. They kept tweeting me he gets good, right? Well, I took Will Butcher. You need guys who have played NHL games, and I took a lot of guys who didn't. So Will Butcher has, and yes, reclamation project. I agree with you there. And he's a guy who I think does well enough, you can flip him.
I looked at Will Butcher as well, guys, but I didn't take him. It's funny, the Subban contract we know is a little bit outdated now and a little bit too expensive for the player that he is. And I think too expensive for Seattle to take this time. I did look at Andreas Janssen. I looked at some of his underlying numbers. I looked at some of his points. We could save this for another episode, but Kyle Dubas's record for re-signing his own players is pretty bad.
It's abysmal.
And it's time that we start talking about it.
We don't need to save that. I think you say it right now.
While talking about the Devils.
We a lot of people made fun of us, and I think rightfully so now, for falling in love with our own players. Mm-hmm. And if you want to tell me that Toronto did an honest assessment of all of the players that they re-signed, that's Matthews, Marner, all the way down. I think they got the Matthews contract right. I think they got the Nylander contract right. I think
41 goals in 50 games. Come on.
Yeah, I think that's about it, though. And the Andreas Janssen contract is atrocious. It's just such a poor, terrible reflection on, what the Leafs valued at the time. Now, I know that they were thinking the cap was going to go up, but the cap wasn't beyond $85.1 or $81.5 million at that point. What are you doing signing Janssen to $3.4 million? What does he give you? So
getting Joey Anderson, no retention, not having to sweeten the pot, unbelievable trade, horrible contract. Great
trades, terrible at re-signing his own guys, and he falls in love with his own players, and that's why Justin Hull is protected right now, but we can get into that a little bit later. Yeah. I have to say, I'm picking one that's a little off the board. I'm going with Scott Wedgwood. I think that Scott Wedgwood, to me, is, again, he's insurance. He's like Alex Stalock. You're going to lose a couple of these guys on waivers, but what I want to do is push them all through at the same time so I have goaltending depth if my boy Carey Price isn't going to be ready for a while, if Kakko Kapanen struggles, and some other goalies that have a little bit going, a little bit later. I want to have some goaltending depth. I think it's important to have NHL players in goal when you've got a young guy like Kakko Kapanen, and I think it's important to take the pressure off him. And Scott Wedgwood, career backup, couldn't hurt.
To back you up, Adam, he had a .900 save percentage in 16 games with the Devils. Mackenzie Blackwood, who we all seem to agree is pretty good, only had a .902. Granted, that was in 35 games. Dude, the Devils suck. They're really bad. And Wedgwood's a guy, I've had my eye on him for a long time. He's just never really been able to find an opportunity. And I think he can prove, or last year he proved he can at least play in the NHL. I like that pick.
All right, going on to the New York Islanders. Now, before we get into this, Leaf fans think it's bad, a little bit bad with Dubas. But let us not forget that Lou Lamoriello, signer of the Nikita Zaitsev contract, which is still happening, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Lou Lamoriello decided to protect Cal Clutterbuck and Matt Martin over Jordan Eberle and Josh Bailey.
This is the second time he's protected Matt Martin.
And
GM of the Leafs, he also protected Matt Martin.
And they're going to win the cup. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I'm not saying Matt Martin and Cal Clutterbuck are not valuable and not important players together, but are we kidding? Now, so that means Seattle GM Jesse Blake, you get to make a choice here. Do you go with the expensive contracts? You know that the Islanders are banking on the fact that you apparently don't want to take on money, that Ron Francis has said the most important thing is us having clear cap space, and it's going to cost you a first and a third. Who do you pick?
The most important thing for me, Mr. Lou, is taking your big contract and filling out my first line. Ooh. Ryan Johansson up in the middle, and then I have Landeskog on the left wing, and my right winger, thank you, New York Islanders, I'm going with Josh Bailey. Yes. That's my first line right there. I take the $5 million contract. It's only till 2024. Josh Bailey's 31, so he won't be that old. It's not like he's expiring when he's 38. He's still good. $5 million is great value. And now I have this excellent first line that I could roll out versus any team in this league. Josh Bailey's my pick here.
Steve Dangle.
I took the other guy. I took Jordan Eberle, another right winger, 5.5 until 2024. This dude, I obviously love Jordan Eberle and have had a blind spot for him for a long time. You are not going to have any trouble getting rid of him ever if you have to. I think he's a guy who, remember you were saying like, hey, your team sounds like it's going to be good in 4 years. He's good now. But if we are to get to the playoffs, let me give you a stat with Jordan Eberle. 13 playoff games with the Oilers, 2 assists. Ooh. And that is essentially why he got traded. Since joining the Islanders, 9 points in 8 games, 14 points in 22 games, 11 points in 19 games. Dude is a playoff performer. Dude is a gamer. We've known this since he was an actual child. So it's amazing to me the Oilers gave up.
Well, what did he do for Team Canada back in the day?
Oh, just a little of this, little of that, Adam. Just a little of this, a little of that. So I'm taking Jordan Eberle, an incredibly consistent offensive performer. Underlying numbers are good. It's not a bad contract, and you can afford it anyway. You're the Kraken.
Yeah, what the heck? I'm going to go and echo Jesse here. I think when Josh Bailey's healthy, he's a regular for 50-plus points. And can't hurt to have a winger at $5 million who get you that many points. $1 million for 10 points isn't the worst thing in the world, and that's how you sort of have to look at it with Josh Bailey. There are some potential health issues as he gets older, but the contract's a few more years. It's if $5 million is not going to kill you. And like we've said before, we talk about if this team sucks and they have a terrible start and it doesn't, then you start trading for assets. Josh Bailey's an asset that makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams because he's cost controlled for a long, long time and he can score. And he's been deep in the playoffs. This is a guy that went to the third round 2 years in a row now.
Yep.
So, on a young team too. That's a great guy to have around your young players, especially when you have 3 draft picks in the first round. If one of those guys makes the team, it's pretty good. Now, moving to the New York Rangers, this one's a little bit interesting because we do have some news, but Jesse Blake, all things being equal, there's no signing announced yet. Who do you pick?
What's going on with Barclay Goodrow? Just like they acquired him. And was that the news you're going to get to?
The news is they've made, quote, significant progress. Now, Barclay Goodrow was traded for like a player and a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Tampa knew. It looks like it's going to be a 6-year deal at $3.6 million.
With New York.
With New York.
Okay. So he's exposed, though.
He's exposed because he's a UFA.
So then that was just my whole question with this. I didn't select him, obviously, but like, why do you trade for a guy and then expose him?
Because they're going to sign him after he makes it through the expansion draft.
Right. So Seattle, they wouldn't take him because they know they can't sign him.
Right.
So okay. Right, and New York can't sign him to this deal until after the expansion draft, but. Whatever, like let's say Seattle does take him, they're going to have to top New York's offer, which is already 6 years, which is going to take him to 34, which
I'm
not sure.
He's great in the playoffs, but at $3.6 million, that's a hefty hit for Barclay Goodrow. Yeah. But man, Tampa fans love him. Now, Jesse, go ahead.
So my pick here was Julien Gauthier, former first-round pick. New York signed him a couple months ago to a one-year deal just for this situation. And I think every time, like I mentioned this earlier, when the team's like, hey, here's your guy for the expansion draft. Here's a first-round pick for free. We already signed him. He's under contract. Here you go. Take him. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to take Gauthier on that for that deal in this pick.
With an expansion team, you try to take players who, if we give them a bigger role, maybe they'll succeed. With a certain player on the Rangers, you actually get to take a little peek behind the veil because they already sort of did it. Late bloomer at 27, 28 years old doing this, but I'm going to take Colin Blackwell.
Interesting.
In 47 games, he had 12 goals, 10 assists for 22 points, which, as you know, ain't bad. He only makes $725,000 against the cap, which I believe is league min. That is the easiest contract on planet Earth to flip this summer, to flip at the trade deadline, to re-sign if he ends up being good for your team. There aren't really any drawbacks to getting this guy, so that's why I got him.
And I'm going to select Barclay Goodrow, baby. Now, this will make sense later in the show.
Are both of you over the cap?
No. Barclay Goodrow is going to make sense later in the show. I'm taking him. If the Rangers have this deal set up, I have a feeling I can get that number down. And I have a reason why.
Not a chance.
Yeah, I can get that number down. I'll get that number down.
More guys from Tampa?
How?
I'll get the number down. We'll get to that.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into it now, but I don't think $3.6 million is the Seattle price. That might be the New York price. It ain't the Seattle price. Let's get into Ottawa. Jesse Blake.
I don't know if I'm buying this, Adam.
I'm just fuck it. Like, who cares if I'm right? Right. Let's do this for total fucking smash and grab. Now, Ottawa, Jesse, let's go.
When I started my draft, I started off with the 4 goalies I want. Ottawa has one of them. I'm taking Joey Decord. I think it's an easy pick, a 24-year-old goalie with super high potential. He's locked up till 2023 when he'll still be an RFA. You throw him in the Seattle system, you let him develop, and maybe when one of the first 2 goalies I drafted aren't as stable anymore, you got Joey Decord in your system. I think it's a easy pick here.
Steve Dangle.
I had a long look at Joey Decord, and I may be doing an expansion draft for Tim and Friends, and I am potentially going to change my pick if I feel like it after the show because I get to cheat like that. But I did not take Joey Decord. You need players, and you guys have made fun of me for not having enough of those. So no, this guy is good. He's a good player. Bit of an offseason last year, but the team he was on did better with him there. He's a UFA at the end of the upcoming season. Chris Tierney.
Interesting.
Play center.
Chris Tierney.
Yeah, $3.5 million Chris Tierney, but veteran presence. And it's not at the deadline anyway. It's not too bad of a contract. Again, I'm looking for value. And I see value in Chris Tierney as an expansion GM, so I take him.
I'm going to go again. And I looked at Dadonov just because I liked what he did in Florida. Haven't loved what he did in Ottawa, but I guess he's, warm body that plays hockey there, and that's important. I'm going with goaltending depth again. And I was thinking about Decord, but then I'm like, wait a second. I've got Kakinen. So I'm going to go Anton Forsberg. Why?
Oh.
Depth. Why not? Guys,
he loves changing teams.
What's that?
Because he loves changing teams.
Sure does. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's like, what do you lose? I don't want to get bogged down in too much money here because I've got more money to spend later on in this draft. Anton Forsberg, for my team's model, makes a lot of sense because I can drop him at the drop of a hat. It's no big deal. And really, $700,000, you can bury that. No problem. Let's move on. Now, guys, Philadelphia made a huge trade with Ryan Ellis that exposed some people. Who do you pick from Philadelphia, Jesse Blake?
Right-handed defenseman, right-handed defenseman, right-handed defenseman. That's what you need. That's what you need on your team. So I'm going with Justin Braun. And the fun thing about this too is that it also screws over the Flyers a little bit because Justin Braun was their most stable defenseman out of their core six last season, and he was their only right-handed D. So now acquiring Ellis, they would have had two, and now they only have one. So you get a little poke in the side of the Flyers because you take their only other right-handed D. So you bring over Justin Braun on a super cheap deal. It's $1.8 million. Expires next year. He's 34. He's going to be just a solid in your top six. That's who I got from the Flyers.
Steve Dangle.
Well, I know they want cap space. So Voracek's out. JVR is out. It's amazing to me that both are available. Justin Braun, I took a nice long look at for all the reasons Jesse said. But there are so many players where I'm like, I get him and I'd like him on my team, but if it doesn't work out, I can flip him. This one situation I decided to be risky, and I took a first-round pick from 2016, German Rubtsov.
Oh,
I'm going with him. He played in the KHL last year. There's obviously a factor where he could just stay there. I'm going to say he wasn't particularly good, but he wants a new opportunity, I'm willing to imagine. Buddy, come on over to the Kraken. We'll give it to you.
With my pick, I went with the one that everybody thinks you shouldn't make. There's actually three that you probably shouldn't make off the Flyers, but I went with the one that needs a desperate change of scenery, whose underlying numbers offensively are still spectacular, and that's Shane Gostisbehere. This guy is a former All-Star. This guy makes $4.45 million, and it can't hurt to have a guy in your early 20s who can run a power play. Now, he has holes in his game, but I think the submarining of his career by Flyers fans and media, and frankly, let's be honest, coaching and general manager, they just don't like him. For whatever reason, it's like, no, we don't like you anymore, and you're gone. We do it here in Toronto, too. Shane Gostisbehere needs a change of scenery. He needs somebody who's like, hey, Shane, we believe in you, and we wanted you. And I think Shane Gostisbehere in a Seattle Kraken jersey would be very, very interesting to watch. He's mobile. He's smart. He does some dumb shit on the defensive side of the puck. Try to build around that. I've picked some defensively reliable forwards and some defensively reliable defensemen. Let Shane Gostisbehere be Shane Gostisbehere. Tyson Barrie 2.0, maybe even. I like him, and that's who I'm picking for Philadelphia.
How do I know Adam's 33? He thinks 28 is your early 20s.
Is he 28? I thought he was 24. Jeez,
No.
Shane, no, he's not 28.
Yeah, he's 28.
Jesus. What happened?
You know what, man? Like,
What happened?
There's so many gosh darn numbers
I
to
know.
look at. So if you screw a few of them up, dude, we're talking about 31 teams or 30 teams here. There's so much to look at.
Now this brings
hundreds
us
of players, literally.
I still like Shane Gostisbehere at 28.
It's not bad.
Whatever.
No, it's prime. It's prime.
Yeah. Okay, Pittsburgh, gentlemen. Now, before we get into Pittsburgh, we have to acknowledge the obvious. The Leafs and the Penguins made a trade. Philip Hollander has gone back along with a pick to the Pittsburgh Penguins for McCann. Now, why did the Leafs make this trade? Steve Dangle.
Well, so it's actually smart. And while it is smart, it is also infuriating. So the Leafs could lose Travis Dermott, who it actually wouldn't be that big of a deal because they have replacements for Travis Dermott, and he wasn't even in the playoff lineup as a regular. Or they could lose Alexander Kerfoot, who they don't really have a ready replacement for. Ironically, one of the replacements that was suggested I saw online was Philip Hollander. So what they do is they go out and they get Alexander Kerfoot insurance in Jared McCann. The Leafs might have even got this guy because they know Seattle wants him. And I looked at Pittsburgh's exposed list here, and I 100%, if McCann, out of all the guys available for Pittsburgh, add McCann to that list, I'm taking McCann.
100%.
He easily would have been my pick.
100%.
Now Seattle, I don't know if they're going to be that happy with the Toronto Maple Leafs because, well, now I only get one. We know they like Kerfoot because enough experts have told us that they do. CJ said it. Fried said it, right? They like Kerfoot. They also obviously like McCann because they were looking at him as the target for Pittsburgh. That trade makes perfect sense for Pittsburgh. Why the Leafs made it is Seattle for a side deal was charging a first and a third. If the Leafs lose McCann for nothing it cost them Philip Hollander, who's a former second-round pick, and a 7th. It's a lot less than a 1st and a 3rd. It is actually smart that Dubas did that. The human element of it, though, is this was the first thing I saw Leaf fans get excited about in a long time, and it might be for nothing.
Because Jared McCann is a good player.
He is a good player. A lot of people, not just me, a lot of people who I know are down on the team perked up and they went, oh. A lot of the stats experts, oh, that's not bad. And now they might lose him for nothing. They better not. I'd rather lose Kerfoot's cap hit, even though, as funny as it is, he was one of the only Leafs forwards to really show up on the score sheet in the playoffs.
Right. So brings us to our Pittsburgh picks. Jesse Blake, with the Pittsburgh Penguins pick, what are you going to do?
The guy I wanted here was Brandon Tanev. I tried everything to select Brandon Tanev, and then I couldn't do it.
Why?
So because it's too many years.
Too much money.
It's too much money at 3.5 till 2025. I wish
got some wild deals, man.
They do. Yeah. Holy shit.
And I'm not going to help them by taking one of those deals. So I walked over and I opened the box of picks, and look what it is. A right-handed defenseman, former Leafs project. Yeah, Jesper Lindgren.
Interesting.
I'm taking the RFA. You got to re-sign him, but that won't be anything because he didn't have that great of a year. I think he was playing over in Sweden for a little bit. So I'm going to take that project, going to throw him in my minors, get another right-handed D, Jesper Lindgren from the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I want to bring up Steve. Oh, sorry. It's Steve next. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, it's funny. Adam and I were just texting back and forth about this contract yesterday, and he was like, how on earth did this player get it? If I'm not mistaken, he went on a relatively hot streak before signing it. I still think he's a good player. I haven't looked at his underlyings in a while. I believe they were good last I checked. I'm gonna take Marcus Pettersson, but
no, 2025.
It's one of the picks I'm least sure about, to be honest. It's one of the picks I'm least sure about. I know he can play in the NHL, but it is a lot of money. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure, and I may change it by tomorrow.
Steve, is your crown in the room, Steve?
No,
you should put it on for having the worst team.
You guys gave me.
You took Ryan Johansson, and I will not be spoken down to by someone who took Ryan Johansson willingly.
I took Henrique, and you took Pettersson and Johansson. The two of you, you owe me an apology.
I have the best shitty contract.
No, you don't.
Yes, he has
Henrique
the worst.
is the best shitty contract.
I have a first line center.
You have Ryan Johansson.
Exactly.
This is the opposite of the we have a Hulk conversation. No.
Watch out. Landeskog, Johansson, Bailey, first line.
Hey, Steve, what about Marcus Pettersson do you like? The contract is what the contract is, but what do you like about it?
Contract is garbage.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. Listen, I told you it's the pick that I'm least sure of. I liked how he began with Pittsburgh. It's not. I'm not gonna lie. It's not my strongest pick.
No, you know what, Steve? You should have to go live on Tim and Friends with the exact same team tomorrow. You can't change this shit.
It's like my only
that's not
shitty
fair.
pick.
No, let him
You should have to own. No. He should have to own his team. Jesse, you and I have to wear our team. Steve doesn't.
Because our teams are decent.
Yeah,
okay,
we're not picking Marcus Pettersson. That's for sure.
Okay. I know for sure Marcus Pettersson can play in the NHL and he can play decent minutes. The other two that I looked at were Juuso Riikola, who I don't know that of, and Mark Friedman, who has only played a little bit. I know some Penguins fans think they're going to lose him. The Brandon Tanev contract, again, no. And Zucker, no. But for some reason, Pettersson, yes.
I looked long and hard. I picked too many goalies, but I did it on purpose, and you know why. Casey DeSmith came up. I was like, I might as well have a look at that. Marcus Pettersson, I'm like, I don't think so. One guy who is super old and is a right shot defenseman, and he can be my Martin Marincin. This is who I pick. Chad Ruhwedel. 31 years old.
Ruhwedel.
So is that Ruhwedel? Okay.
Ruhwedel.
Whatever. He's the
no,
seventh
I
or eighth
butchered him
guy.
before, and Penguins fans made fun of me. So
So seventh or eighth guy. Listen, if he doesn't work out and make the team, then he gets buried. $700,000. You can bury that cap hit. He is a guy that you can look to, even if you've got him with your AHL affiliate. This is a guy that can mentor young players. That's the kind of thing I go, I'm not sure I'm crazy about anything else Pittsburgh has to offer. Jason Zucker's numbers, by the way, not good. Not good.
Let me throw something out there before we move on from the Penguins. The obvious pick statistically is Casey DeSmith. He's the obvious player. He stops pucks in the NHL. I'm not taking him, and I think Seattle is probably not going to take him because here, let me read this from Fosters.com. Ex-UNH goalie agrees to diversion, receives counseling, avoids jail. I'll just read the first two paragraphs. Casey DeSmith, 23, former goalie for the UNH men's hockey team, will have to undergo drug and alcohol counseling and complete community service in order to avoid jail time for assaulting a woman in August. DeSmith, a Rochester native, signed a diversion agreement at the Dover District Court on Thursday and admitted to assaulting a woman in Durham August 31st. As part of the agreement, DeSmith is required to undergo drug and alcohol counseling for up to a year and be monitored by Stratford County Corrections, which may include random alcohol testing. DeSmith has to complete 40 hours of community service through the county work program. He is on probation for 12 months.
Holy smokes. Didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah, we talked about it, but it was a long time ago. And again, good numbers. If you want an abundance of goalies, for sure. Not for me.
Okay, moving on to San Jose. Jesse Blake.
I'm going to take the guy I didn't expect to be exposed. So there was Jonathan Dahlin is on the San Jose Sharks protected list, and they went with him over Ryan Donato, who I'm going to select here. I'm going to take the young forward left winger, $1.9 million. You got to re-sign him because he's an RFA. But I didn't expect San Jose to leave him exposed. Like, I was pretty shocked that they're so high on Dahlin, who was, I believe, playing over in Sweden, and he had like a good year. But so yeah, I'm going to take Donato because I think he's a great prospect, and I didn't expect him to be on this list.
Just 4 minutes ago, from Elliot Friedman, as we await what Seattle decides with Carey Price, word is that the Kraken are closing in on Florida's Chris Drieger at 3 times 3.5, which is very close to what Adam said earlier. Okay. Don't believe that it precludes them from selecting Price, but one goalie appears to be locked in. Very interesting. Very interesting. Sorry, I happened to see that while trying to do something else.
The Kraken need a guy who's, if you have Carey Price on your team, you need him for the playoffs. So you need a guy who's going to play 40, 45 games.
Yeah. Dahlin, Jesse, again, all the potential, but he's got like the Bruno Caboclo syndrome of being 2 years away from being 2 years away. Like he's always talked about, like, I want to see him in the NHL.
Yeah. So, but San Jose's still high on him. Like, why is he on your list? I don't know. So yeah, I'm taking the free Ryan Donato.
I assume they're going to use him.
Steve?
It's unbelievable numbers in Sweden.
Yeah.
Really good.
What are your picks, Steve?
I'm also going Donato.
Okay.
I want a proven NHL scorer. Yes, he's an RFA. I don't want to sign in Seattle. All right, well, I flip you. So that's what I do. It's easy value.
I'm going to take Radim Simek. Okay numbers, doesn't kill you on defense, gives you a 5-6 option for a bit of a longer term, but you'll be playing San Jose a lot, so you want to hurt them a little. And the thing that they're worst at is defense, so why not hurt them a little bit more?
Why not?
And so that's why I decided, as the Kraken GM, that I'm going to make San Jose even thinner on the blue line. Radim Simek is my pick. Now, let's go to the former Stanley Cup champions, the St. Louis Blues, with some very interesting exposed players. Jesse Blake, lead us off here.
Tarasenko would have been so much fun, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to take another high-paying forward, so I went with Vince Dunn. Fill up the back end. You get a top 4 blue liner who's proven, who's only 24 years old. He's an RFA. You need to re-sign him. So big deal. He can play on the left side or the right side according to Cap Friendly. So I'm going to take Vince Dunn there.
Okay, Steve Dangle.
Thought long and hard about Vince Dunn and landed on the guy who there are 4 teams willing to take without any salary retention. I'm drafting Vladimir Tarasenko.
Interesting. Yeah, that was an interesting one when that report came out. When I did my draft, I hadn't read that yet. It seems odd for a guy who's played, 35 games in the last 2 years?
Yeah.
That's if the teams are willing to take him and you can flip him, that's the right pick. But assuming that you're wanting to keep them, I'm going to go with Jesse's pick, Vince Dunn for me.
Yep.
Another guy on defense who's younger, or at least in his 20s, who needs a change of scenery. This is a guy that's not getting ice time. St. Louis they're off him. And I think with Vince Dunn, there's a reclamation project. If you can get him more ice time, I read a little bit, I think it was Jeremy Rutherford. There was some sort of attitude thing that I think the St. Louis Blues wanted to sort out as well. Who knows what that actually could have been, but I think Vince Dunn is a guy where you go, there's a tremendous amount of upside here, and I can't imagine he's overly expensive to re-sign as he is an RFA.
It sounded like the attitude issue was, hey, why don't you guys play me more?
Yeah, and honestly, St. Louis has done some weird shit on their defense. Like, Scandella's contract, which has now exposed Justin Falk over Alex Pietrangelo, which objectively made them worse. Like, Pietrangelo was the best player on the Golden Knights when they lost to the Canadiens, without question.
Easily. Oh, my God, easily.
And it's just, it doesn't make sense to me why St. Louis made the moves that they made with their defense. You didn't have to sign Scandella to that. You didn't have to sign Justin Falk to that. You could have kept Pietrangelo, and you could have given Dunn a little bit more time. I think Seattle may benefit huge if they pick Vince Dunn, which I actually think they will. I think
Scandella, who's exposed, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like, you didn't need to do this. I don't understand. Anyway, Tampa Bay Lightning, who have already lost Barclay Goodrow. We know that. They're probably going to lose Blake Coleman. Jesse, Blake, who's your pick from the Tampa Bay Lightning?
I thought this was one of the most fun teams to pick from because there's just so many guys and so many guys you know the names of, or so many prospects. So you're like, hey, that's a project. But,
is there a bad pick?
Right. You can't really go wrong here. So I looked up and down who I had on my roster and what I needed. And I have so many little prospects and reclamation projects, and I have a lot of big names up top. And on defense, I'm pretty solid. So here I went with, I'm not going to help you with any of the contracts, Tampa. That's your own damn problem. So I went with the guy I think is going to be the most fun, Patty Maroon. You take the less than $1 million deal, the guy who's won 3 straight Stanley Cups right now. You bring over Patrick Maroon and you have the fun old guy to play with. He's only 33, but he's the fun old guy if you go with 3 straight cups. You get the vet presence under $1 million. It expires at the end of next year. You throw Patrick Maroon on the Seattle Kraken and maybe you get some good luck and you get a run to the Stanley Cup final.
And he's a fan favorite. Favorite. Good
you
pick,
apologize
Jesse.
For no money, $900,000 for a fun little pick like that. It's fucking awesome.
Now, Steve Dangle.
There are other, I'm not going to help you out, Tampa players you could have picked. And a guy I looked real hard at was Cal Foote. High pick, 22, right D. He is a restricted free agent. So that's a little difficult. Taylor Radish, I thought about for a second, but I'm not going to overcomplicate this. He could end up being Seattle's number 1 center. I'm taking Yanni Gourde, a player who I just write love letter after love letter to every Stanley Cup playoff for the past 2 years. He's an unbelievable player. It's interesting. Some guys are great in their role, and he's great in their role. But I think if he gives the effort he gives on the third line, on the first, he may evaporate on ice. So it'll be very interesting seeing how he does with the Kraken.
It's funny because because I tweet out, I wanted fans to send me their list, which I can get to.
Cheater!
But so many people had Yanni Gourde on their team. I'm like, it's a big assumption to assume that a third line center can jump to the first line.
It is, which is why I don't expect him to. That's why I picked so many centers. But I do pick Yanni Gourde, and he's the reason also that I have Barclay Goodrow. Because what I do is I call Barclay Goodrow's agent and I say, listen, I know the Rangers and you have this deal worked out, but I'm going to sign Blake Coleman. And I've got Yanni Gourde already. So how about we knock the term back a couple of years? I'll keep the money the same, but you guys get to stay the same. And you're going to be the second or third line on my team, because you're not going to be the first line. You guys played spectacular in the playoffs. You're exactly the kind of hockey that any team would die to get. Don't you want to get the band back together for a couple more seasons? And I think you'd have a pretty good case with Barclay Goodrow, which is why I select Yanni Gourde. Easy pick for me based on the way I structured my team. fucking love Yanni Gourde. He's the best.
The one thing I'll say with Barclay Goodrow, I forgot to say earlier, dude is 28, making $9.25.
Yeah, he needs to make some money.
I got 2 cups. Shut up. Payday. You know how I'm always like, pursue winning? He won. Payday. Let's go. I won twice. I got 1 for each fist. Give me my money.
Now, there are 2 obvious picks with this next team, and we are a little frustrated by the whole way this shook out. But the Toronto Maple Leafs, in their infinite wisdom, decided to keep the 30-year-old defenseman who makes $2 million. Now, everybody's like, hey, oh, man, they don't grow on trees at $2 million. I'm sure you can find another partner for Jake Muzzin to look good. And it doesn't mean that Justin Hall's a bad player.
How about 1.5?
Right. And to that point, Steve, that $1.5 million player coming off his worst season, doubling his salary and getting term.
Listen, I talk about Jim Benning and the idea that he could be an extremely good assistant GM, but he's the GM and has obvious flaws. Sometimes I wonder if the Leafs have one of those.
I mean, I think it's obvious. Justin Hall should not have been protected. You went out and got Jared McCann. So then what you do is you protect Alex Kerfoot, to me, because
you don't have 7 forwards worth protecting.
Right. Well, and because I look at this and I go, Seattle would pick McCann. So you're protecting Hall anyway. You've made the deal. Why are you? They're not going to take Hall over McCann. And if they do, fucking let them. Trade McCann for the defenseman that you need. Like, really? No. I don't get what the Leafs are doing here. But that's what we're looking at. Jesse Blake, who do you pick from this Leafs team?
I'm taking Kerfoot. I think it's been rumored for so long, and the Leafs did nothing to try and find a way to protect Kerfoot. So I'm just going to take it.
Steve Dangle.
I'm hoping McCann is Kerfoot insurance, and they made the deal because they know they're going to lose Kerfoot. But I'm making the pick that I would make: the younger and cheaper Jared McCann.
Interesting.
Enjoy Hollander in the 7th, Pittsburgh.
I'm going to go. I'm going to echo Jesse. I go Alex Kerfoot. This is a guy who just recently learned how to penalty kill. He's only a year older than McCann. He can win faceoffs sometimes, can be a good winger. And I've got a team loaded with centermen. So I don't necessarily need him to be the centerman, but he's a fast skater, only $3.5 million for 2 more years, and he's 26. McCann is also a good choice. I take the guy who can play center more often, and especially on the penalty kill. I think Kerfoot has the edge and maybe being a little bit more useful. All the same, I'm really confused at what the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing here. Maybe they want to lose the money. Maybe.
Right. What would you guys be most happy with? Adams.
They lose Kerfoot.
Man, I guess so. I think
they lose Kerfoot, sign a center, move McCann to the wing.
So here's the thing: you lose Kerfoot, you sign a center. How much is the center going to cost?
Well, ideally less than Kerfoot.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Okay, you're gonna find one who's 26, makes $3.5 million, is useful for your third line. You have
everyone seems to agree. Everyone seems to agree that but McCann played for Dubas's OHL team, so
what? Fuck, was he a Sioux Greyhound?
Yep.
You got to be fucking kidding me.
Yep. Bro, this is what I'm talking about. Like, okay, I'm being extremely fair. It is fair to say the Leafs need to find a way to get fans excited about this team. And you're going to start by acquiring a guy who you promptly lose for nothing 4 days later. Bad start.
If it was a smart move, I think Leafs fans would understand it. They're very educated in terms of. I think. Listen, Steve. If it was a move that it's like, oh, this protects a definite thing, and for sure, I think Leaf fans could understand that, right? I think they could, and I think the average fan doesn't really know a whole heck of a lot about Jared McCann. With respect, if you're listening to this show, you're not an average fan. You are a hardcore hockey fan. Because it takes a hardcore hockey fan to seek out a show on Spotify or YouTube and listen to it 2 hours, 3 times a week. That's hardcore. That's what you are.
Yep.
But with the Leafs, I understand, like the average fan, again, not going to have heard of Jared McCann, probably. But my point here is you've got the center that is growing and developing into that role. I loved the Alex Kerfoot I saw in the playoffs.
Yep.
And listen, if you're going to sit there and tell me, well, that's not the Marner and Matthews we know, in the playoffs, can you not also have the reverse and say, well, Kerfoot found his groove in the playoffs?
The goalpost made of spaghetti. Like, it's just unbelievable. Stop sticking up for this team until they give you a reason. Stop
100%.
it. Stop
and
it.
Listen,
Stockholm syndrome. My God.
Open to it. Open to cheering for this team. Want them to succeed. Want Kyle Dubas to be the smartest GM in the league. But we were sold on him being the smartest GM in the league. And I'm not seeing it in the re-signing. I'm seeing good trades. But I don't get the Justin Hall protection thing. Straight up. I don't think there's any excuse for signing Travis Dermott for 2 years. I don't think there's any excuse for that. You let him go to arbitration and you say, the numbers suck. The numbers suck, Trav. You're getting 925, not 1.5 million for 2 years. And then you're going to protect a $2 million defenseman over your third line center when you have no forward depth beyond your big four. Are you kidding me?
I'm fascinated to see who's on the Toronto Maple Leafs by August 1st.
Yeah.
Because then we'll go through the expansion draft and the draft and a few days of free agency, because we're really early in the process, despite being very close to that date. We're really early in the process. But if he's got something up his sleeve, it's news to me, and I'll be very surprised to see what it is, because I don't understand what's going on.
Now, are you guys doing you're doing the NHL draft together, right, on the stream?
Yeah, not the expansion, the NHL draft.
I'm pretty sure it's the expansion draft, man.
Oh, we're doing the expansion draft?
Yeah, we're doing Wednesday.
I thought we're going to.
Yeah,
I got a text that it was not Wednesday.
Oh, this is
we're definitely doing the expansion draft.
Because Jesse said he was going to look up prospects.
Yeah,
I'm
the
like,
prospects.
They're doing.
I heard you say that too, and I was just like, no, I didn't.
Oh, I guess I'll check in again, but I thought it was Friday.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Unless I have to make a phone call.
No, we'll check after the.
What I love about that, I just thought it would be great if you guys were stuck doing the first round of the draft and there's no Leafs draft pick. I just think that would be very funny. Sorry, bit of a sucker for that. Vancouver Canucks, guys. Who do you take?
I'm taking a guy who, frankly, I was surprised to see exposed. Really good numbers in the AHL. What he hasn't been able to prove is if he can do it in the NHL, and he played 7 games and had 0 points. But I'm going to give him the opportunity. He's only 22.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's an RFA, but I'm going to be able to sign him for very little. Cole Lind.
Oh, okay. Good pick. Jesse Blake.
I also had Cole Lind, so I was going to go with Highmore or Lind, and I landed on Cole Lind.
I went with Zach McEwen. It was shocking to me how many people wanted to get Braden Holtby. You got to understand, Seattle is right next to Vancouver. Why would you help them? You're not here to help them with the contract. I take Zach McEwen because I don't want Braden Holtby. I'm not taking any Vancouver shitty contracts. They're not my friends, and I'm going to grind them hard. Zach McEwen's advanced analytics. If I have to use him in a pinch, he's not going to kill me. If he never plays a game, who cares? He played 34 for the shitty Canucks, and he didn't get caved in, and I like that. So he's a centerman. If he plays in the AHL, fine. If he plays in the NHL a little bit, cool. Probably needs a chance. Seattle's the place to do it. I'm taking Zach McEwen. And that brings us to the Washington Capitals. Jesse Blake.
This is number 4 of 4. My 4 goalies that I got in Seattle. Vitek Vanacek. I'm taking the young 25-year-old RFA, 7.16667 on the cap hit. He'll through next year. I'm going to take Vanacek, and then I fill out my 4 goalie roster.
It's a good goalie pick. Steve Dangle.
Yeah, he finished 6th in Calder Trophy voting, which doesn't sound like much, but it's difficult for goalies to get into that conversation. He had 3 third-place votes. I'm going with Vanacek.
I am going with Alexander Ovechkin. Why? Because fuck him. If you can take Alexander Ovechkin, even for a minute off the Washington Capitals, fucking do it, baby. Now, if he never plays a game and he goes back and he signs in Washington, whatever. But if you could get Alexander Ovechkin signed, even for the few days that you would have to talk to him, that is a marketable NHL star. Alexander Ovechkin, Seattle Kraken, and at the end of his career, they won't be able to say that Alexander Ovechkin was always a Capital. He was Kraken for a little bit.
It's never going to happen, but I love it.
Oh, come on.
It's never going to happen, but I love
full
it.
chaos. Fuck them. Let's go. That'll be fun. All right. And last team here. And this is, I think we're going to line up on this one as well. Winnipeg Jets. Who do you guys take? I think this is a pretty obvious one, but I could be wrong. Jesse Blake.
I think the obvious pick here is Dylan DeMello, everyone. There was an even article this morning on Sportsnet.ca about how exposing DeMello is the wrong thing to do, and it's a risky move by the Jets. I think you take the young right-handed defenseman. He's locked up long-term at only $3 million per year till 2024. He's 28 years old. Right, D, like I said, that's the theme of this draft. So I'm going to take Dylan DeMello.
Steve Dangle.
What do you do when you're mad at your own hockey team? That's right. Make a friend feel worse about their hockey team. So I talked to my friend Brady about the Winnipeg Jets and how somehow the Jets are exposing Mason Appleton, Dylan DeMello, and Sami Niku at the same time. All of those players would be good answers, but Dylan DeMello is the goodest answer. I'm taking him.
Agreed on that. And I think you look at the Winnipeg Jets, who looked like shit when Dylan DeMello was not in the lineup this year. Dylan DeMello was the anchor, was the top guy on their team for defense, as far as I'm concerned. Dylan DeMello is an obvious pick, and right-handed shot defenseman. We like those. And thus concludes the expansion draft. Now, guys, I have to ask you, for the contracts that you signed, do you know how much money you came in at?
Yes, so this is important.
I came in at 81.4.
81.4.
Yeah. I come in right at the limit, so I got as many good players as I can, and then I'm taking Clefbaum and Giroux out of that, so it's about $9 million less than it looks.
Great. Steve Dangle.
So mine comes in at 72.9 out of 81.5, so I got, like, what is that, 8.5 mil of cap space. So I got a ridiculous amount of cap space. I'm going to flip like at least 5 of these guys anyway. Then I got to re-sign my RFAs. I'm still going to have plenty of cap room and a pretty good team.
I came in at 85 million. Now, I know that obviously that's not cheating. You can go 10% over the cap.
It's the off season.
Yeah. So it's not cheating. And I'm going to flip a few of these guys. A few of these guys are going to get buried. I'm going to lose a couple of goalies to waivers and that sort of thing. And I am going to sign Alexander Ovechkin, and that gives me the space to do it. Carey Price is going on LTIR. We're laughing. But we are going to be a cap team, and it's going to be tight. Probably not going to be able to make a deal at the deadline, but who cares? Alexander Ovechkin, everybody, and Carey Price, same team. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Love it.
Can I mention some of the stuff that was tweeted in?
Sure.
So, yeah, like I said, yesterday I asked people to tweet me their expansion teams. I just want to run down some of the fun names that we had. So Simon Hopkins said Price Subban reunion. That's a possibility.
Love it. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's 19 mil. 19.5 mil.
It's a lot of money.
Joshua Davis had Gardner on his team, and that was just one of many of the lists that came in with Jake Gardner on it. I guess it was a big theme. TD Diets 88 on Twitter had Adam Henrique as his number 1 center. I want to shout out Adam for that one.
Mm-hmm.
We had...
What is it with Adams?
Okay.
Right?
We protect our own. It didn't start well for us biblically, so we're trying to work our way.
Dane had JVR on their top line, which I thought was
not. I've seen that too.
Mm-hmm. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Alex had Pettersson just like Steven. So there's somebody with you on that side. We did have a lot of Subban picks as well. Cambria had Subban on their team. So after last show, it looks like people actually went with that. And and a lot of them were, I think 99% of them had Yanni Gord up the middle. So
wow. He's so good, man.
Yeah. So that was some of the stuff I saw.
It should speak volumes about how good Gord is that Palat is available and no one's taking him. Because that dude rules too.
He does rule.
Yeah.
And maybe he's the Galaxy brain pick.
Maybe.
You've got enough centers, why not, right?
Why not?
He makes players around him better. And he's he'd be like Tampa's Hyman, right? Like Zach Hyman.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. It's just if his name was Chuck Steak from Burlington, we'd 100% talk about him like Hyman.
Now, in other news, and this is great news, Preds fans, And I think really just the LGBTQ plus community at large, the first player ever in the NHL under contract to come out and say, hey, I'm gay. And it's Luke Prokop. This is, I'm going to read his message because I love this. Hi, everyone. While the past year and a half has been crazy, it has given me a chance to find my true self. I'm no longer scared to hide who I am. Today, I'm proud to publicly tell everyone that I'm gay. It has been quite the journey to get to this point in my life, but I could not be happier with my decision to come out. From a young age, I have dreamed of being an NHL player and believe that living my authentic life will allow me to bring my whole self to the rink and improve my chances of fulfilling my dreams. Wouldn't be able to do this without my amazing family, friends, and agents who have known this about me and met me with love and support every step of the way. I hope that in sharing who I am, I can help other people to see that gay people are working in the hockey community as we work to make sure that that hockey is truly safe for everybody. I may be new to the community, but I am eager to learn about the strong and resilient people who came before me and paved the way so I could be more comfortable today. This is just the beginning of my journey, and I'm excited to see where it takes me, both in hockey and in life. Thank you. So pretty cool.
So cool.
And not worth not that we have time. It's not that it's not worth getting into. We don't have the time, but Pierre LeBrun's got a great article on it. It does the full interview, and it's really great.
Can I just say it's just so important to have the representation because being gay still isn't accepted around the world and sometimes even in your own backyard. So having people like this represent the gay community and be open and authentic and live their authentic, true selves out in the public open is just, it's incredible to see.
Yeah, there's that article from LeBrun, and also he did a sit down with Merrick and Freech as sort of like a mini 31 Thoughts. There was a statement from the Predators CEO, Sean Henry, president and CEO, also one from director of hockey ops and the general manager, David Poyle. Everyone's supporting this guy, and that's good, and it's important, and because he deserves it.
They should, and it's interesting. I was talking to Jax, who on Virgin Mornings is gay, obviously, and is very open about it, and is very proud and out there, and really kind of making sure that perspective on our show is represented. And what was interesting is, when I think about going on vacation to a country, and this is just one aspect of why this is so important. When I think about going on vacation to a country, I don't think about whether or not it's safe for me most of the time, unless they're on a list that's banned. For people in the LGBTQ plus community, there's less than 30 countries they can go to where it's legal, or where they're allowed, or where they'll be treated well, or where they don't risk their safety just because of who they are. Less than 30. There's 200 countries. It's for anybody that still asks, well, wasn't there a straight pride parade, in Boston? For anybody that asks why we still need to do this, it's not for you. It's for everybody else who is still suffering and still unable. And congratulations to Luke. This is incredible that he's done this. Hope to see more people feel comfortable to come forward, because we know there are more. And may he be what a great example to set, and what a nice message, and a nice little shout out to the people that came before too, because I think that's really important. You always got to show that. So shout out to Luke, and pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a great day.
Yeah,
it's a great day in the NHL. Yeah. 100%. Now with that, guys, I think we should wrap it up. I mean, it's we've got the expansion draft. There's not much that's going to happen. We'll hear some signings and whatever drifting in. But what we're going to do is wait on our next show until after the expansion draft is done. Hoping that we can do it late that night, because I think it'll be worth it.
Jesse and I might be doing a stream into a podcast.
Our stream, Steve? Is it Wednesday? I don't know anymore.
You know what? I'm going to call producer Drew right now.
Okay.
No,
don't call him on the thing.
Don't call him on the show.
Okay. No, I'll call him after.
You guys figure it out. But we hope to do a show later that night. So Thursday morning when you wake up, you've got a podcast. And of course, we will have one for you Friday as well. Looking forward to it. Let's have some fun. It's expansion draft. This is it's once every 5 years right now. But when's the next one going to be?
Really?
Well, it's 2 in rare 4 years, isn't it?
I don't know.
Vegas.
Fucking Jesse, Matt.
It's John Cena versus The Rock. Once in a lifetime. Twice.
So let's have some fun with it. We will see you Thursday morning. And it's Jesse and Steve. If it is the expansion draft that you guys end up doing the thing on,
it is.
Good luck. Have fun.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.